There's comedy with the Hole's Pictorial Weekly team on RTE1 at 5 to 10. But back to 2 now, and you may feel differently about the dust mites in your bed after tonight's programme from Positively Healthy. It's presented by Anne Harris and it's about allergies and asthma.
Allergy has become what you might call a medical growth industry in recent years. For example, 35 million Americans have identified their allergies, and they say the rest are coming out in spots wondering what theirs might be. As a medical fashion, it's rivaled only by psychoanalysis, and all it needs now is for Woody Allen to make a film about it, and allergy would be here to stay. But of course, allergy has always been around. Allergy is the special sensitivity of some people to certain substances, like Fred here, who hasn't been loaned to us from the set of The Alien, but is in fact the common dust mite, and you can see him here on a film taken through a microscope. 10 out of every 100 Irish people suffer from an allergic reaction of some sort or other, which is a lot of people by any standard. The difference is that neither the medical profession nor the population are getting hysterical about it. We've come to speak to an allergist who has been working on the research and treatment of allergy for the last 21 years. Doctor, could you cut through all the jargon and tell us what's an allergy?
Yes, well, I'll try. In patients who have developed an allergy, they have scattered throughout their body certain cells which have become sensitized to specific substances. Now, I've drawn on a blackboard here a representative picture of a cell here. And on the cell, there are things called antibodies here, scattered around the cell. Now, those antibodies are like a lock, and the substance to which the person is allergic to is like a key. And you've got to have the right key to fit the lock. So in this example here, let's say that's a grass pollen. That will only fit into this antibody on the cell. But this other substance, for instance, like dust mite or cat fur, won't react with that particular cell. That is if this patient is allergic to grass pollen. Now, what happens then is when the grass pollen comes in contact with those cells, here, the allergen, which is the grass pollen, links with these antibodies and causes the cell to more or less explode and give out these chemical substances. And these are the substances which cause the allergic reaction. One of the main substances here is histamine, and they cause the allergic reaction in the patient.
So the person who suffers from an allergy has different antibodies from the person who doesn't?
Yes, they have these antibodies stuck onto these cells.
Right. What are the most common types of allergy?
Well, allergy can manifest itself in different ways. There's respiratory allergies. First of all, if we start with the nose, you have patients with allergic rhinitis. That's patients who've got sneezing and running and blocking nose. The common example of that is hay fever. Then patients can have allergic conjunctivitis. That's the lining of the eye becomes red and swollen and itchy. And moving down further into the respiratory tract, you can develop bronchial asthma, where the patient gets wheeziness.
And what are the most common substances that cause these allergies?
Well, the substances can be things that you inhale, such as pollens that are in the air during the summer, fungi, that's molds and fungi, animal epithelia, ordinary household dust, and in household dust, the house dust mite.
Could you tell us a bit about this famous dust mite?
Yes, well, I think you've already been frightened by a picture of Fred, and also you've seen a film of these little mites under the microscope. But in actual fact, they're not like having bugs in your bed or having fleas or anything like that. They're present in everybody's home, and it has no reflection on the person's hygiene. These mites live in ordinary dust, and in fact they weren't discovered till about 7 or 8 years ago in Holland, when doctors looking at allergies to dust were trying to find out why people were allergic to dust. And they discovered that living in dust was the dust mite.
But is he someone we just have to live with? Can you get rid of the dust mite?
Well, one can do quite a number of things to try and lessen the number of mites in the environment of the home. Now, it's known that the dust mite is about 100 times more prevalent in bedroom dust than it is in other parts of the house. So really one should concentrate on the bedroom. And the first thing one wants to look at is the mattress. Mattress dust can contain a lot of mites. And it's worthwhile hoovering the mattress with a vacuum cleaner once a week, very thoroughly. It's also useful to have a mattress case or cover which can be washed frequently. The next thing to go for is the ordinary bed covering. If you've got ordinary blankets and sheets, it's a good idea to change your sheets to nylon sheets because the dust mite doesn't like nylon very much, and also to shake out the clothing out of doors, give them a really good shake out of doors to get rid of any particles. Not in a room, of course, the dust will just go up and come back down again.
Give them a hard time.
Yes, that's true. And also another important area is the pillows. Once you get rid of feather pillows, even if the person isn't allergic to feather pillows, again the dust mite seems to like harbouring in feather pillows, so you have to really pay attention to the pillows.
Well, are all substances that cause allergic reaction inhaled?
No, there are other ways of getting allergic substances into the body. Apart from inhalation, you can ingest things such as food substances and drugs, and these can also cause a reaction. And then there are things that you touch, such as animals and metals. And in fact, I show you on this slide a rather interesting case of a patient who came back home one evening and didn't know that his wife had varnished the toilet seat, and he had to contact dermatitis to the varnish.
Is it true that breastfed babies have less allergy than non-breastfed?
Well, I could put it slightly differently. If a child is born from parents who are allergic, the chances of that child having an allergy or inheriting an allergic tendency is much greater than a child who's not born from allergic parents. Therefore, it is well worthwhile for parents who have children, that's allergic patients who have children, to breastfeed their babies. This would give this child a better chance in life because you're keeping them away from contact with potential allergens such as cow's milk.
If a person suspects they have an allergy, how do they find out?
Well, if the person comes along to the allergist, he is more or less like a detective. He has to go into a very careful history and he does special tests. And if you'd like to come now with me inside, I'll show you how we go about this. Now, this is Paul. Now, Paul has got a different type of allergy. He's got a food allergy. And Paul is very allergic to fish. How does it affect you, Paul? Tell us about it.
Well, my eyes begin to swell and I get very itchy and my face begins to get red and I start scratching all over.
Yes, I see. So you have to avoid fish, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd imagine that an allergy to fish would cause a stomach upset or an obvious reaction like that.
Yes, like a gastrointestinal allergy. Well, this is an interesting point. See, if you know you can smell fish, therefore there are little particles of fish floating around in the air. Therefore, they can affect the eyes or the nose or even the chest as well as the gastrointestinal tract.
So he inhales.
So he's actually inhaling it, and I'm sure if he ate it, he'd be in trouble. Has he ever eaten fish?
Yes, when we go to.
Yes, and what happened to him then?
He got sick.
He got it sick,
Yes, that's right.
Well, I'm going to put some tests on Paul's arm to check him out to see if the allergy tests will react to their different fishes.
Will you test for every fish in the ocean and river? Or?
No, I'm just going to go for whitefish, which from his history he's allergic to. That's a group test for these groups of fish. This is for cod, and this is for plaice. And as before, I'm going to pick the skin. All right, Paul. And again, we're going to wait for 10 minutes or so to see what happens with these tests on his arm and find out which type of fish he's allergic to. Well, you can see now, Anne, that he's not only reacting locally on the skin we put on the test, but it's beginning to have a generalized effect on him. Are you very itchy, Paul?
Yes, very.
Yeah. Is that how you get?
No, it's not as bad.
Not as bad. You've got a lot worse than that when you're in contact with fish. So
This isn't the worst. This isn't the worst of an
it's
allergy
not.
attack.
In fact, there are certain characteristics in children where doctors and parents can recognise that they have allergies by looking out for some of these signs. They sort of rub their nose and...
How would a real reaction affect him?
Well, I think it's best for him to tell us that himself. What happens really when it gets bad?
And my eyes go, the white part of my eyes go brown, and I get much itchier than I am at the moment. And the back of my knees go all red, and I scratch them all.
I see.
And the part of my elbow that's always itchy, that goes.
It gets worse.
That gets worse now.
Do you get any jelly stuff in your eyes at all? Jelly feeling? No?
Yeah.
And how long would those attacks last for?
Well, this can last for some time, depending on how long contact he's had with the material to which he's allergic.
So the treatment for Paul will always be avoidance of fish and fish products?
I think avoidance would be the correct thing in this case. And now Jos here has got a cat allergy.
So what happens when a cat crosses your path, Jos?
Well, specific cats actually, mainly. Siamese cats, to be very specific. As soon as you would enter a house where you would have Siamese cats, I would notice them without really seeing them.
But what happens to you when you notice them?
It starts with an eye irritation, and then a skin itch, and eventually it will end up in bronchitis.
You start wheezing?
Yes.
You can literally smell a cat a mile away, can you?
Indicated, yes.
Well, what can somebody like Jos do? I mean, you can't eliminate all the cats in the world.
That is true. Well, from a point of view of treatment, again, avoidance is one of the important things as far as possible. But it is possible to desensitize a patient to some of the things that they are allergic to. A vaccine can be prepared, and they can receive a course of injections which I don't like to use the word desensitization, but I would say hyposensitizes them. It makes them less allergic to the things that they are allergic to.
So Jos will be able to visit the in-laws without
Hopefully
worrying
so.
about the cats?
Yes, I hope so.
Well, I'm an angler, and I found that I was allergic to fish, or at least I thought I was allergic to fish. And I do most of my fishing in two areas, greystones and skerries. But I only reacted when I fished in greystones. At first just it was an ordinary head cold, and then over a period of time it developed into a tightening of the chest where I could hardly breathe, and then it developed even further where my eyes closed. I began to worry about this, and I went and contacted my doctor, and after discussing the matter with the doctor, we did some tests, and we discovered that I wasn't in fact allergic to fish, but I was allergic to the bait I used when I was fishing. In greystones, we mainly used mussel as bait. In skerries, we would use a worm bait or a fish bait, and I didn't react there. So it was discovered that I was allergic to mussel.
Allergy and asthma aren't exactly married, but they've been seen together often enough for people to suspect they're more than just good friends. Nearly everyone knows what an asthma attack looks like. It's difficult, wheezy kind of breathing. According to the